Rachel, lovely to meet you. Really looking forward to talking through some questions about your professional life, but then also explore particularly your volunteering and the benefits you've seen and what you've been able to give back through your volunteering. But yeah, if you could, I mean, this is like celebrity of the accounting profession that I was speaking to. So I was just Googling some fun stats. So over 130,000 Instagram followers. Wow, I've been stuck at 800 for about 8 years, so I could probably do some tips there. 25,000 followers on LinkedIn. Again, incredible. I've seen clips of you on This Morning, Stylist Magazine columnist, like incredible. But also checked out your credentials in terms of volunteering. So we'll come on to that in a moment. But maybe if you could just give us sort of a snapshot of how you've got to, this incredible place by 2025, that'd be awesome.
Of course. So, yeah, as of today, my life is split into three sections. The first and foremost, this is what came first, is the accounting firm. And so I own a multi-seven-figure accounting firm. And 5 years ago, it was just me and my husband on our dining room table during COVID with a mortgage to pay. And I said to him, I'll join a networking group to try and find some clients. And yeah, after I qualified as an accountant, I did a master's in business, I did an MBA. And so I'd done really interesting market segmentation. And I said to James, like, I'm a millennial. I consume content on short form media. It's where I search for like referrals, recommendations, how to's. Like, I've literally just learned how to make sourdough bread, and I learned 80% of what I know on TikTok. So there must be a way to leverage this in professional services in the same way that Stephen Bartlett's done it for Diary of a CEO, Grace Beverly does it for Tala. Nobody is leveraging founder-led personal branding in finance, which for me has always been an industry with very high barriers to entry. My parents didn't know people in professional services who could get me work experience. Like, I really struggled to enter an industry, let alone feel like I belonged in it. And I think we could really use the storytelling side of social media to just tell that great story. And so, yeah, that was 5 years ago on the dining room table. And we now have 800 clients, a Manchester office, an Oxford office, 24 full-time team members who are all grassroots British on payroll, in-house, fully employed. Most of them are on apprenticeship schemes and training programs to become ACCA, ACA, AAT, ATT, CTA qualified. And so we really leverage a lot of diversity and qualifications as an AAT accountant with a master's in business who's married to a chartered accountant. So the accounting firm has always come first. That's what pays our bills, and that's how we do that. But through doing that, I started telling our story online on Accountant She. I wanted an Instagram handle that felt like me. It was punny and funny and pink and endearing and reflected my personality, which is I do a really serious job, but don't take myself too seriously. And I started creating short form content to reflect the finance industry as I've always seen it, which is definitely a stereotype that's reflected in pop culture or films like The Accountant. And, as someone who was an introvert, the only pop culture references I could see were reflected in shows like The Big Bang Theory. And they weren't reflected in people that ever looked or felt like me. And so just started telling our story of being a little girl that loved maths, who came from an upbringing where volunteering was encouraged. My mantra was always, you don't become poor by giving, like ask for help, but also help others along the way. And so within Accountant She, that's now a multi-six-figure personal brand where I do brand deals. I sell a lot of the internal systems and processes that we've scaled within the accounting firm to other accountants and bookkeepers through there. I host a podcast that generates £60,000 in recurring revenue, where the listeners are the subscribers rather than going to a brand. And then the third part of my life is TV, press, and PR. So I was interviewing Keir Starmer last week. I do all that this morning quite frequently. I do a lot of work with Downing Street. I sit on the new media unit. Just wrapped for a TV show that's coming out in September with BBC, commissioned by ITV. And so my full-time job is translating really complex topics into very easy to understand, relatable, accessible finance tools. And so there's the three areas of my life.
And how did it's just incredible. And there's so many avenues I could ask you about there. One quick one is around that sense of you being able to be, yourself, and for that to come through, through your Instagram content, and increasingly across, all of the avenues of your work, whether TV, media. I would think back to when I started my career, I felt like PwC is diverse place in terms of workforce demographics, but actually there was a sort of a stereotype, I suppose, as to how you were kind of expected to behave and sort of and be as an accountant or a chartered accountant. Have you always felt that confident to be yourself, or is that something that sort of has evolved over time?
Oh, for sure has evolved. Yeah, so I trained in the top 100, and if like very strict dress code,
Yeah,
like a dress down Friday for a man would be like that you have your top button on your shirt undone,
yeah,
and not be wearing a tie. Whereas for me, a dress down is like, am I wearing a bra? I'm wearing jeans. Like this is very relaxed, and so I very much trained at a similar firm. And I think for me, yeah, I just always have never I never saw that benefit clients.
yeah,
And I think for so long
yeah,
it was like,
interesting.
this is what clients want, this is what clients pay for.
Yeah,
They pay big fees, like we have to do these things. And to me, we move quite quickly because of the work that I do into like the celebrity and influencer space. And so people are coming off shows like Love Island straight to us. We are chatting to people as soon as they come off shows like Traitors and Bake Off. And actually, in a lot of accounting firms, if you've got a brown carpet and people are wearing suits, the
yeah,
way that these people make money is just completely like you can't even have a conversation about it, let alone say, I do OnlyFans.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
for us, like it just does not serve the client. It serves the client to meet them where they're at and to have people who just feel safe
Yeah.
to be themselves as well.
It's interesting. I had parallels from working in a very traditional bank for nearly a decade, and then going across selling business and going across to Klarna, and then suddenly finding our main sort of business partners there were retailers. Obviously, this was a payment method in sort of e-commerce, retailers, and they don't want someone coming in, Klarna wearing a suit and tie and everything. They want someone who they believe understands their business, their sector, but then brings their expertise with payments. And
Yeah.
suddenly I felt like so much freer. It's funny, isn't it, when you can start to, whether it's through what you're wearing or your behavior or the language you use, to be able to, speak freely rather than sort of impersonating what you think, a client would want.
But
And
that means so much, right? Because I feel like so many of the people, especially that we speak to, like I think there is a definite demographic for people who would search on social media, and we know that like social media converts so much faster and so much more successfully because people can like feel
yeah,
through content. They can
yeah,
feel like, oh, that feels like me, and so we, because of that, definitely attract a demographic of people who have some sort of like financial anxiety, financial trauma.
yeah,
Maybe I've got Love Islanders where I'm on a call with them packing to go into All Stars, and they're telling me that a maths teacher told them that they were bad at maths, and so that's why they've never engaged with it. And so like I'm trying to like help them unpack that, and I do feel like it's our responsibility as accountants to show up as ourselves,
yeah.
because the mental load, the decision fatigue of thinking like, what would a professional accountant do, rather than just being like, how can I make this
Yeah,
person like
you're a
seen,
human
listened to?
being. Yeah, exactly. That you're relatable. You can relate to their situation, but you can also, to the point you said about sort of a lot of the avenues of your work, you can express it in a
Mm.
way that is accessible, which I think is again sort of as a profession, we're probably not always known for that, are we? In terms of terminology, which can feel quite excluding, I suppose, of people who aren't necessarily in the profession. One other angle, just linked to just the multitude of things that you do, is that part about, and we'll come on to it specifically about sort of volunteering, but just time, like how do you like manage your time, especially when you've got these different responsibilities and they're high profile, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with those. How, on a practical level, how do you manage your time and your kind of split of time?
I work really hard,
Yeah,
is the first thing to say. Like I think
yeah,
it's very easy to be like, oh, I just delegate, and I
yeah,
do like I have worked consistently hard for 5 years being self-employed, and a long time before that. I recruit people far more intelligent than me.
yeah,
I ask for help all of the time. I probably ask for help about 10 times a day. And but again, the psychological safety of people that report to me seeing me ask for help does so much. And so, yeah, I have an incredible team. I ask for help all the time. I have non-negotiables that look after me, in that, if you were looking at someone's business, you'd be like, cash flow is the deal breaker. And when that stops, everything stops. For
yeah,
me, that's like my health. And so, hour-long morning dog walks with the dog, like trying to do dopamine detoxes. I phone fast a lot, where I stay off my phone. And is it Ed Sheeran who doesn't have a phone and says if someone wants to contact me, they will?
They'll find a
Me,
way.
me and my husband say that to each other all the time, because they do always find a way to contact you. And so, yeah, almost, I wear a Whoop, so I do quite a lot of like biohacking, and I really try and do that with my brain as well, to work out like how do you get the best out of yourself. Like, we're not machines. We have to look after each other. And for most people who've touched with volunteering, you will also touch upon like difficult moments in people's lives. And I think through a lot of the volunteering work that I have done in my life, and a lot of the jobs that I've done, life is so short. And so really just leaning into making sure that you understand what your non-negotiables are really helps me to make sure that I am building this for tomorrow, but I'm also aware of like tomorrow might not come. So let's.
How far ahead do you plan? Are you like a week, look ahead a week? Are you look ahead a month? Are you looking ahead a year? I suppose a lot of the activity you're involved in, they're big things where they are committed,
Yeah, so from the accounting firm, we're planning like 5 years in advance in terms of like headcount, cash flow, all of that. So I guess I haven't mentioned so far, the accounting firm, all of the businesses are bootstrapped, so we've never taken any external investment. And so like headcount wise, we'll be planning 5 years in advance. The TV and PR side of my life is much more unscheduled. So, you get a call from the Prime Minister's office 2 days before saying, do you want 10 minutes with him? That is much harder. But again, just having systems and processes in place to make sure that my sanity is shielded from a lot of those conversations until stuff is booked in and confirmed. But like, you don't scale. Our accounting firm is scaled so quickly and so successfully because everything is systemized and processed. And I describe it as the McDonald's of the accounting industry. So like, McDonald's, where they have like a little, the cups go here, the food goes here, the cups don't go too close to the food, otherwise the food goes cold and the drinks go warm. Like, everything in our accounting firm has working papers, email templates, process notes, so that the only thing that the team have to think about is, how do I add value? How do I make sure they feel good? And so everything is systemized. And
linked to that, what's your take on, it's obviously talked about a lot, but like use of AI tools? Are they tools that you're using sort of day in, day out yourself, and within the practice?
I don't think I could go a day without AI now. I use it so much. I actually sometimes think I use it so well, it like feels illegal to use it as well as you can. Like, even ahead of this, I'll say, like, can you give me a brief of Alex? Like, if I want to build rapport really quickly, what are 3 things I should mention in the first 60 seconds? Even like met Keir Starmer last week, and I knew from ChatGPT, like, don't mention Arsenal, or like, he supports Arsenal, so don't mention that you support Man U. Like, even stuff you could never, it would take hours of research to do that stuff. But if I've got 24 hours notice that I'm going to have to interview him on a press release that hasn't come out yet, how do I build rapport in that way? And so we like really double down on AI. And again, as an accountant, we're not going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by accountants who can use AI better than you. And so like, you need to be in that camp.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think back to my like PwC trainee days, in audit, and you think about, some of the tasks we were doing compared to now, whether you could run it through, open banking extracts of the bank account transactions, running that through AI tools could, have done tasks that would have taken me weeks to do, sort of manually.
And even like the tasks that save you 20 minutes, you think, I'm doing 10 of them a day. Like, I'm just getting through work so much faster than I ever was before. And I obviously, it's equal parts exciting and terrifying, but like, I love it that, this is our industrial revolution. We're going from horses to cars in 12 months, and we just have to work out how to leverage it to move faster.
And the expertise there in terms of getting the most out of the tools is like, that is almost like the new version of what's the core skills. You've got the sort of your subject matter expertise, but as say an accountant, then your ability to leverage, say, AI, whether it's the right prompts or the ways you can use it, something that,
and knowing when to and when not to use AI as well is a nuance, which, as tax advisors, ChatGPT is not a great tax advisor.
No,
it is for 2 years tax tips, but not now. And so like, understanding where it can help and where it can hinder. But like, as someone who runs a company and has many employees, it's incredible.
Right, let's talk then across to volunteering. So we talked about time, and often, yeah, and typically right now around 12% of people with financial skills volunteer. The most in demand skill sets on charity boards now. So historically it was marketing skills, went to digital skills, and then in the last 3 years, particularly with post COVID, cost of living crisis, donations down, but demand for services, 75% of charities are reporting an increase in demand for their services. Stepping in where maybe the state, can't support people is a common example. So desperately in need of financial skills, volunteer skills, trying to do our bit to charter path. Really keen to bring to life, what you've done in terms of, that side of your life, I suppose. It's an incredible professional career, all different avenues. Talk a bit about what you've done from a volunteer side. Both, I think importantly, we talk a lot about skill-based and other volunteering. That's not judgment either way. Because I mean, I love volunteering as barcode scanner at Parkrun or Marshall or Junior Parkrun, whatever. But equally, I love volunteering my financial skills. So maybe talk a bit about that.
Of course, I think like many people who love volunteering or have volunteering built into their life on a daily basis, that for me has always come from seeing people receive life-changing results from charities and from charitable activities. So there's a few parts of that. I'm an identical twin, and my twin sister is disabled, and so I grew up, from a family who had to ask for help, whether it was like physical support for her, whether it was transitional support for her, whether it was how do we keep her in mainstream school with her sister versus going to a different school. And so, as a family, we received incredible love and support and family and community from charities. And at the same time, I wear hearing aids, but my mum is profoundly deaf and she is a hearing dog recipient. And so we received the life-changing gift of a hearing dog during my childhood. And so I got to watch my mum struggle from having an invisible disability that lots of people can't see. And if you say, excuse me, in Morrison's and someone doesn't move, you just think they're rude, versus, being able to see people can see that she is deaf. And so being able to see the real life sparks of joy, which sometimes are these tiny moments that people would never realize the impact they've had on your life. Just watch all of that come to life means that I have always had an inherent passion for giving back what I feel I've been able to witness in my own personal life. And so I volunteered as a child, was very much raised in a church and as part of a church. So whether it was counting the collection money, I was born to be an accountant. Counting the collection money on a Sunday and saying like, oh, do you think we could get more if we email people in advance and tell them to bring change?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, how can we increase the conversion rates of getting people to do it? Like, can we A/B test putting money in the pot before people give so they can hear money?
Yeah. I get the feeling that your brain might be as tired as my brain is. I get the feeling you probably worked in a similar way. It's constantly seeing things in all avenues of your life for like optimization.
And this was me at like 8 years old, just with a bag being like, if I put 420p's in this before we give it to people, they'll think we've all put loads in and they'll give more. So yeah, from like counting the collection at church all of the way through to I was raised through the brigade, so girls brigade, boys brigade. I was in the marching band, just saw all of this joy through volunteer work. When I became a teenager, the girls brigade actually folded due to lack of volunteers in our village, and so I started a village youth group. And so again, within about 6 months, we were like having to beg for more volunteers because we had too many children in this teeny tiny like Cotswold village. Just had too many teenagers turning up on a Friday night. I'm quite sure their parents were in the pub, but we were just begging for more volunteers. And so just working out like how we could even use that to give back. So like I'm volunteering with a youth group. How can we get the kids doing stuff? And so we used to do like drop-in sessions where different members of the community, mainly elderly people, could bring tech in that they didn't understand, and the kids would sit with them. And so it was a volunteering pyramid scheme where I was getting the children to volunteer while I was volunteering with the old people, getting them to do stuff and like sparking the same joy in them.
Get community, but transfer of, we were talking earlier about sort of transfer of, in that case, skills, but support amazing.
Yeah, and even like shoe shining, like we had some of the guys, I say guys, it was just boys that wanted to do it, doing shoe shining and older members of the community were coming to teach them how to do shoe shining properly, to then get people to bring in their shoes and do shoe shining, and like just the most wholesome things. And again, you're just constantly looking for ways to bring pop cultural references into it so that you didn't seem out of touch. And so we would do like Hunger Games themed evenings where like all of the activities were like French braiding their hair so you look like Katniss, and yeah, just a crazy Friday night. And just saw all of this joy, all of this connection, all of this, some of the best friends I've ever had came from Girls Brigade, Boys Brigade, random sleepovers in churches, which as an adult is terrifying. I'm quite sure they're haunted, but as a teenager,
So exciting.
You'd never be able to have a sleepover with 20 people at the same time. And so just always wanted to give back all of those like core experiences that I've always remembered back. But through doing that, through, growing up in a church, through being part of Brigade, I learned to talk to anyone. Like there was no one of any age that I couldn't talk to. I knew how to talk to older people, younger people, because I have a disabled sister, could explain complex topics very simply, very quickly, if it meant that it was really important that she understood, we're going to London, you need to stay close to me, this is why, whilst also not scaring someone. And so was just collecting all of these skills. And so through doing that, did a lot of fundraising in my teenage years, which culminated in, when I was 15, I was awarded the Princess Diana Award, which is an award, it's a volunteering award. And so because of all of the money that I'd been able to raise for various charities through my teenage years, won the Princess Diana Award, which was, a huge moment. And it was actually me and both of my siblings were awarded it all at the same time, which has never happened before. And just as a family, we'd just all fallen in love with volunteering and, all of the life skills that I could see from the first job I ever got in finance. Like, I'm pretty sure I got that because most people my age wouldn't be able to interview, even with the soft skills, at the level that I was. And I knew it was because of the volunteer experience that I had even as a young child. And then, as I became self-employed, I became a trustee and director of AAT, which is the governing body that I report to. And so for the last 3 years, have just been an incredibly proud trustee and director. And we were saying before we hit record, some of the people in my phone book that I, if I had a problem at work, if I was really facing issues that I had to solve quickly, the people that I have in my phone book that I would call come from experiences that I've never been able to do. And, you just immediately got something in common, which is that you care. You have that drive, you have that passion, but also like the skill, like to sit at board level of a multi-million-pound company with a board far larger than mine. You just learn, you learn everything. Sometimes you're learning what not to do, sometimes you're learning what to do, but you're just continuously learning. And so some of the best friends I have in the world have come from volunteering. Some of the best experiences that I have, some of the best skills that I have all come from volunteering. And so
incredible.
I don't know,
I find it's like so inspiring when you hear kind of that story and sort of the articulation of it. And I think one thing which is often sort of underappreciated, I think, by people with financial skills is that it's almost like the Trojan horse to be able to get into the to boards or organizations or charities where you feel passionate about the cause, because the financial skills are just so fundamental to the to those organizations. And often they'll have for example, a finance subcommittee. So when I first became a school governor, I joined as the finance link governor, so equivalent of sort of almost like the treasurer. And then it was one of those typical things a year in. The chair was standing down, Ofsted were about to come in, and then everyone was like, who's going to be the chair? And they sort of look around, you suddenly realise you've got sort of 8 pairs of eyes on you. Suddenly in 4 years, you're chair of governors for 4 years. But again, it's like that, the opportunity to, it's an entry route in, but then an opportunity to develop your skills, but loving other people. It's just incredible, because that's the thing. I've sat on trustee and school government boards with like lawyers and marketing, incredible marketing people with amazing HR skills, and like you say, it's that opportunity then to either ask them for support or help if you need to. And we've talked a lot about sort of that, asking people for help, or even if they don't know, they'll know someone who does know the answer. And that's often the underappreciated part of networks, isn't it? It's not always just that first connection. It's like that HR lawyer, for example, they might not know the answer, but they'll know someone in their network who 100% could help you. It's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. And there's people, that you meet in life where if they ask a favor for a friend, you get on a call and you say like, oh, a friend of Alex is a friend of mine. Like,
Yeah.
how can I help? And I
Yes.
feel, like so.
You're invested, aren't you, in each other because of that, say, that common cause that you'll go out on that extra limb to like find the right person to connect
Yeah.
them with.
Yeah. And I feel like for most finance professionals, the too long didn't read for a lot of volunteering if you're looking to progress your career is in most of the rooms, you couldn't even pay to be in that room.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
And so, like, as a financee, you will always be in demand. There'll always be a need. And so, yeah, like the networking opportunities on their own,
Yeah.
you couldn't pay to be in the room.
And again, I'm conscious myself. I often talk about all the benefits of volunteering, for myself, the organization, for people I've worked with or for. What's been like one of the toughest times? So it's not always rosy. Like that's just the reality. Like you can't always predict the demands or issues that might happen in a charity or within a board. Like, what if you look back on sort of your volunteer side, particularly any moments like that stand out?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say as well, like you definitely come into. I was a street pastor for a long time. I don't know if you know what that is, but if you've ever been on a night out and a nice lady, normally about 50 plus, comes up to you and they're offering the girls flip flops if they can't walk in heels and they're offering you a lollipop because you're too drunk. I did that for a long time. And I think sometimes you are very often people who are the recipients of charity and volunteer work are sometimes the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they are at the most vulnerable point that you'll ever see them in their lives. And I think the depth of why people who volunteer feel so strongly about it is the same reason that it's also sometimes incredibly hard.
Yeah.
You're capturing people on a night that they might remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And I think for that, I was this tiny, like 7 stone, 5 foot female that people getting into fights in front of you and making decisions that the impacts of that, whether it's drink driving, we intercepted a lot of drink driving, and people will feel those effects for a very long time. And whilst stopping it and having an impact is incredible, like sometimes in that moment it doesn't feel like that, and it's you have a part to play in the best and worst moments of people's lives, especially if it is like frontline service delivery.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's an eye into parts of society that many people just wouldn't see. Like I think often in volunteer roles, like I see it from as a long time school governor where kids in our school where we are making sure they're fed during the school holidays because they are reliant on their free school meals during school time to get a hot meal, one hot meal in a day, and that they're genuinely, you can sense it with some of these kids, like the anxiety in the run up to holidays. We're all thinking in our mind, you must be so excited, school holidays. That's sort of my sort of childhood memory. These are kids who are genuinely anxious about there's going to be no family members at home, and I'm not going to necessarily get fed. So again, you sort of don't see that necessarily in your day-to-day life, and I think that comes with sort of pros and cons, doesn't it? In the sense that I think it makes you have more empathy or helps you to have more empathy, more understanding for people in difficult situations, but it can take an emotional toll on you as well, I think, in terms of.
But again, I feel like it comes with that responsibility that you just sort of like take into your next life. So in accountancy, I started the first ever corporate bursary scheme. And so this year I'm just about to review our applications. And so over the last 3 years, we've changed 15 people's lives who can't afford to become an accountant but want to be. And like for me, it was just an absolute no-brainer that like the minute that company's making profit, we are reinvesting that back into it. And like the scheme is now sponsored. So Free Agent, the accounting software, sponsor the scheme, and they help me to fully fund 5 people every year to become an accountant who wouldn't otherwise.
You're changing the path of their lives, like, and also.
And like so, my PA Stacey, who organised this call for us, she was the first ever recipient, and I've hired her. And so, like that responsibility that you take with you when you see these things, sometimes when you do get put into a position with a bit of responsibility, you think like, not in a bad way, but you think like, this is so easy to do, and it means so much, and like it does, for sure have business benefits. I'm sure people see what I do and think like, I actually want to work with you because I know where that money goes, and it for me it just makes the world go round.
Yeah, and like one question I'm like really interested to get your view on, given sort of your expertise from a like a brand perspective, frankly, is there is a sense that the phrase like volunteering has a brand issue itself. So it's sort of that sense of, when we talk to people who don't volunteer, they have concerns. They might have concerns about the time commitment. They might have concerns about, can they find a cause that they're interested in? They might not have something that naturally jumps out to them. Often people are driven by causes that, like your experience, like something that sort of that resonates with you. Maybe they don't have that, so they can't work out where to get started. But I think also there's a sense of, like, as a phrase, like volunteering, it's seen very much as sort of secondary to, like, I've got a very successful professional career, and
Yeah.
like what can we do to sort of change perceptions of, like, does it need a different way it's described, like different name almost, or what can we do to try and break down some of those barriers to,
Yeah, for me, like volunteering is the best CPD I've ever had in my life. Like it's not me giving something away.
Yeah.
Like I'm receiving, not giving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think for so many people, sometimes you'll join boards and you hear lots of people talking about giving and giving and giving. And I used to sit in those rooms being like, I'll leave here like full of ideas, full of inspiration. I'm coming back to my own business saying we need to do this, 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 and this. So like it just that pivot of it is CPD on steroids. If I was employed and I wanted someone to give me paid time off to do volunteer work, I'd say, don't pay for that CPD subscription. Let me go and do this. Let me go and give to this company, get loads back, and come back. And again, for lots of us, you'll be volunteering in a capacity probably more senior than you are in employment. And so actually, like that's the shiny stuff. Like that's the stuff I'd be putting on my CV. Is it can really help you to leverage it to the next step.
Yeah, and often what we find is that there are quite, there's a common trends already in terms of the typical volunteers, typically, approaching or retirement stage, and it's sort of that sense of purpose maybe that they want and giving back. But often we find with people in their mid-career, they suddenly want to start, volunteering, and they might feel a bit frustrated because they want to be a trustee on the board of AAT, and they can't get that straight away because maybe they don't have that sort of, you've got this track record that you've built. And I think a lot of what we're trying to encourage at Charterpath with, people earlier on in their career is that parallel run of, like, view it as your like volunteer career, and that actually that goes in steps where, I've had it myself where, the school governor then gave me opportunities to be, trustee for Founders for Schools, where we're helping get, entrepreneurs and founders, people like you, actually help connection to go into schools and inspire that next generation. But it's come through, I suppose demonstrating my commitment to it, but also building up my experience. That means I can add value, to, in that case, a larger organization that can have even more impact. So I think, we're trying to. So what would be your one piece of advice? So, we're talking to an audience of, young finance professionals, bookkeepers, accountants, analysts who aren't currently volunteering. They're feeling time constrained. They're trying to like impress their bosses at work and progress, and they're potentially studying or complete exams. What would be your advice to them in terms of, why they should get volunteering and the benefits that they could see?
Yeah, sure. My mantra, I'm sure it'll be on my headstone one day, is you don't become poor by giving. And through every volunteer opportunity I have ever had, I have always left it, richer than the time investment that I've put in.
Yeah.
Whether it is, being surrounded by 40 crazy teenagers when I, end the week with zero energy and I leave thinking, actually, yeah, I'm good. All of the way through to being on the board of AAT, wondering how we can make things easier for the next generation, how to, even, a lot of the work that I do with the government now, I was able to see happen in real life with AAT. I could tie back nearly every business success to a volunteer opportunity I've seen or witnessed. And I think so many people, like you say, see it as a sunk cost, like an investment, like I'm giving 20% of my time to this, whereas actually I'd love to see more people not have to take time out in their own time to do it, and see much more like employer funded, sack off the seat
that is one of the big barriers that we see. And interestingly, not only that, if say lots of data out there from the Big Four, for example, that they disclose around their take up of their volunteer offer. And again, even with the offer, it's in that sort of 10 to 15% range that you see of utilization. And a lot of that is around that role modeling. So it's kind of, it might be there, but is it really there? Like, are they going to be judged against their peers because they've been, not delivering this for clients, for example? And so I think that is a sort of a cultural challenge. That's one we can work together on. We can hatch a plan there. Because I think trying to get both that as more common, that practices, corporates are offering, that volunteer offer, but actually employees feeling fully supported to utilize it, I think could be a game changer, I think.
For sure.
And then what next? Let's, final question then. So, you're organized, you're planned, you're short-term deliver, but long-term strategic. What is next for you, Rachel? What's on the horizon? What's brewing, without giving away anything that's, confidential?
Do you mean volunteer-wise or just generally?
Both. Let's go both.
Okay. Yeah, volunteer-wise, I was engaged for a 3-year term of AAT, which has now come to an end. So I am actually open and looking for new opportunities, which is exciting. And then personally, one of my long-term goals is to be a dragon on Dragon's Den, which I'm really excited about. I think I say that with nuance of maybe not that show, but a show adjacent to Dragon's Den, where maybe I'm not referred to as the word dragon would be great. But yeah, I do a lot of company valuations. I do a lot of evaluations for people who go on Dragon's Den. I do a lot of due diligence support. We do a lot of high-level consulting within our firm. We have just got our audit license, and so we'll be working
brilliant.
Charities and large
organizations. I came from.
Yeah, right. And I think the same things that we've done within the accounting industry, we're really excited to do within audit. And so lots more TV, lots more press. I've got a couple of quite high profile podcast appearances coming up soon. And just trying to continue making being an accountant the coolest job in the world.
That is awesome. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you. I could literally talk to you all day. We'll I'll come and find you in Account Tags in Manchester. But yeah, thanks so much, Rachel, for answering all our questions. I'm really looking forward to get you up on the site. I'm so confident that you're going to inspire a huge number of people with financial skills to get volunteering. So thank you so much for joining.